It's time now to go beyond the headlines. And for the next 2 hours, go where every sports fan wants to go. Behind the scenes and into the practice facilities, locker rooms, coaches' offices, and press boxes to get the info before anyone else. This is the ESPN 1320 Insiders.
Well, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is I'm sick and I don't feel great. Which is why I'm not in the studio today. I am at the home studio because I'm not trying to get people sick, man. Like,
thank you, Kyle.
Honestly, I'm going to be really vulnerable and honest with people right now. Pre-pandemic, I probably would have gone to work today. Like, just not recognizing the potential, like, danger. Danger is probably strong, but just, I don't know. I just don't want to get people sick, man. And so last night I wasn't feeling great. I woke up this morning, it was like 5 o'clock and went, nope, I'm not. This is bad. It was one of those, I have the flu. A COVID negative. That's the good news. Salute. But yeah, it was that body hot to the touch, but also freezing cold and couldn't get enough blankets to go to sleep. It's just brutal. So we're working through that. Appreciate Jesse for hopping in and, helping out so I could be here from home and we could have a show.
Glad I get to play radio with you guys today.
You said you're glad you what?
I get to play radio with you guys today.
Yeah, man. We
it's in the job. We're out here playing radio with our friends. That's all.
Just vibing.
It's been a little while. Outside of the handoffs, doing mad props. It's been a little while.
True. We gotta work that bit out.
Outside of Jesse taking it up the middle.
Nope. Damn it, James. It's a flag.
Oh my God. All right, so let's talk All-Star Weekend. I don't like. It's never going to be the same, man. It's just not. It's not the same event that it was 30 years ago. And I think expecting it to be that, if that's your goal, we're going to be disappointed forever. I think we need to start adjusting our expectations for what NBA All-Star Weekend is and is going to be. Because every year we do the same thing. Every year we watch it. Every year we go, wow, this is nothing like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And man, those guys tried so hard. It's never going to be that again, man. And I go ahead.
The basketball itself, I was okay with. Yeah. The basketball itself. Like the format was intriguing. The OGs beat the young guys, like sort of the process worked to get sort of the best two teams, the best, 10 players or 8 players, whatever their teams were broken up into on the court at the end. I think all of that worked, and the competitive level, but it was like the most boring, dragged out, I get it, but self-indulgent by TNT. That's what it like really felt like, so self-indulgent. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is not, we're not going to sit here and slow play out the death of TNT for the next 3 months. Are we?
We are.
I guess we are. But I was shocked by the way that it was just so overly produced and at the same time, not produced well enough. So that's where it was like,
oh, it was overly produced in the wrong ways.
Well, Inside the NBA is not even dying, right? They're just going to be showing it on ESPN.
Right, dude. That is what, if you wanted to do that whole little thing with Gone Fishing for Inside the NBA or whatever, that's fine. You can do that before the game. You can do it after the game. But doing it in the middle of the final game,
yeah,
where the guys were trying, the players were trying early in that game.
Yep.
Because the league got what it wanted. It's like, hey, target score of 40. You have to run around for 12-ish minutes. Go be competitive. And they were. And then they stopped the game for 12 minutes or whatever it was to do that.
Yeah, it was like the clock malfunction in New Orleans.
Dude, seriously, but on purpose.
Yes.
And so you saw the players visibly frustrated. And by the time they came back, they're like, screw this. And that's what's so frustrating for me is the NBA and Adam Silver want so badly for the All-Star game to be about the basketball. You have to try. You have to show out for fans. That's what this is for. The 200 points is unacceptable because we got to try. We got to be competitive. and then you do everything you can during the games to make it not about the games. You're going to stop it for this Mr. Beast challenge, which, pause on that real quick. That kid's sitting in the bucket of money, or in that like vat of money. Disgusting. Yep. You have no idea where those bills have been.
He's probably in the same situation you are this morning, Kyle.
Worth it though.
1,000, dude, totally. Not begrudging the guy. It's just like, you're going to have to use that money. That's a superhero villain origin story waiting to happen. just cesspool of whatever is in that. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, stopping the games for that, like, that was a fun thing, but do that before the games. Do that on Saturday. Don't do that during the All-Star games.
I can't imagine allowing Kevin Hart to interrupt the great Ernie Johnson in the middle of an opening. I was just like, I just want to shut the TV off right then. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Look, this is not an anti-Kevin Hart thing.
No.
I'm sure that there are people. Is he my favorite comedian? No. Is he my least favorite comedian? Not by a long shot. But why are we still doing the Kevin Hart thing? Why? I don't. It's like, I don't know who is James. Let me ask you this: who is the All-Star game for? Who are they trying to appeal to?
It should be for kids. That's who it should be. It should be to bring in new fans, to allow people to see players that they don't get to see all the time, and to see their guy represent their team and hang out with cool people. I think that's what the All-Star game is for. It's for bringing in, like, who goes to All-Star games is usually like very rich people and people with kids that sit way up high, and they're there to watch the game.
Yep. I think that's go ahead.
I was say Kevin Hart had his moment with Draymond Green, that 3-point contest in 2016, and they're still bringing him back. It's been 8 years.
2016.
Bringing him back. Yes, that was 2016 when that happened.
God, dude, and he's just there. He's just around, and it feels like too much. And James, you hit the nail on the head. It was like overproduced in all the wrong areas. I think there's potential with this format, where if on Sunday you do your pregame stuff, you do all that stuff, there's the pregame shoot around or whatever, and there's all the interviews and all that. But then, like, once the games start, it's like players sit courtside or right there. They watch the first game. All right, second game's up. Okay, that one's over. Let's get to the championship game. And maybe do a third place game or whatever. The two losing teams battle. Just do something to add more basketball. And it was 33 minutes of basketball in a 3-hour television broadcast.
Yes.
You have to up the target score, let's call it 50, and find a way to tack in more games. That's the bottom line for me.
I totally agree. And then, Kyle, the other thing is, I believe as part of the first game, they allowed Kevin Hart's mic to be hot in the stadium. And so he's sitting there clowning players, like, during the game, yelling at coaches to go have their big man stand in the post, not to shoot threes. But it's like interrupting the entire flow of everything. I was shocked by that. And then the other thing I was shocked by was every time, for some reason, they decided to invite Draymond Green, and he literally just took a flamethrower to the entire league. Every time they let him on the broadcast,
he basically said, "Yeah, this sucks."
Like, what is happening?
And then goes and guarantees a championship.
Guarantees a championship for his 10th seeded Golden State Warriors.
Just writing checks that Steph's gonna have to cash.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord.
The All-Star game. Hey, yeah. So Draymond kind of guaranteed a championship, so we're gonna need you to get to work now.
Like, damn it, Draymond. Oh, I get it. We're talking about it. That's why they have him there. But yeah, I don't I don't know that they necessarily want Draymond Green going out there and tossing napalm on the entire weekend.
The entire thing.
Did the players, like, obviously there's, like, it wasn't great this weekend, but did the players kind of force the NBA's hand as far as, like, we had basketball before and it's been horrible, like, watching these guys play? Like, maybe the NBA felt like they had to do something different this year?
Yes, I do. I think the players lack a competitiveness. And, like, if you're going to do it that way, if you're just going to run up the score and just make it like the Harlem Globetrotters, at least if you're going to do that, that's fine. but bring in a bigger group of dudes.
Yeah.
Like make it a 15-man roster on each side, whatever, and just make it like a lot more fun and crazy stuff and all that stuff. But like to have it be like 180 to 190 something, that's not a competitive game. No one's, I mean, they're playing defense like the Sacramento Kings, like in a regular season game, and you're just sitting there watching it unfold the whole time, like, oh, this isn't great. But I thought the competitiveness of the small games actually worked. It did.
I agree.
But I don't know how you rescue the rest of it and why we're doing tribute videos before and during and after.
Yeah. It's like they have to make the games the main thing on Sunday. Friday night, you can do whatever. Saturday night, you can do whatever. But by the time the games roll around on Sunday, that just has to be the marquee part of it. It can't be a continuation of, I'm not going to call for the NBA to like decorporatize the All-Star weekend, because they're not going to. That's just printing money all weekend, right?
It's a cash cow. Yes.
Yeah, man. So I'm not gonna, because that's just unrealistic. But like by Sunday, can we get rid of some of that and just get to the actual games themselves? And I agree a little bit with what Jesse said in that players kind of force the NBA's hand here, but they created this new format to drive up competitiveness and then still like put in elements for the games that like they were worried it wouldn't be competitive. So they wanted to do all this extra stuff to try and distract from the basketball.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to give them a chance first. You did this whole new format. I think it's a great idea. The other tweak I would make is go 28 All-Stars and 7 teams of 4. I don't think I loved the Rising Stars dudes getting in.
Yeah.
But that's a small nitpick for me. I'm not saying that's the biggest issue they had.
I agree. I think being part of All-Star Weekend is enough for young players. Like, if you're going to get to play on the big stage, that kind of, it does take away. And especially if they would have won. Ooh. Like if somehow they would have won and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, what happens? Like the Stars just got punked by the Rising Star guys who, again, aren't even all the Rising Stars.
Right.
They're, the winner of a group, so that you don't even have the best of the best there. Yeah, it was a weird day, but at the same time, I think NBA was the talk of everything this weekend. It's a 3-day weekend for most people. It just kind of played out the whole weekend, and I thought like some of the events were cool. I just thought that they could have done a better job of reining it in and making it a lot like a tighter event, where there wasn't all of this fluff and wasted time and all that stuff.
The other thing that set a terrible precedent, I agree with you there. LeBron James tapping out right before the game in his press conference.
Anthony Edwards did too.
Right. And Anthony Edwards doing the same thing. I'm going to put Ant to the side here for a second, because that also sucks. Like if you think you're too hurt to play, you need to say so and allow somebody else who is going to be able to play to get in.
Sabonis.
This is not even this isn't even a Domantas Sabonis thing, because
I know.
Maybe it would have been Norman Powell and Devin Booker. Like I have no idea, but doing that sucks. The thing with LeBron specifically is LeBron is the face of the league, dude. This is you want to set a tone for your weekend, and it's LeBron going, I'm not going to suit up tonight. I've got this ankle and foot thing. Like, never mind. I don't want to play.
And it became the story was, he had a chance to make it his 21st All-Star game, and now he's not going to play. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't want to necessarily blame LeBron, because it wouldn't shock me at all if the league was like, hey, you need to be there. Like, we won't bring an injury. You just need to be there. Because if you're saying early that you're hurt and you're not going to show up like that, that's a no-go. It's just that when LeBron taps out before the games, like that matters. That matters to these players because everybody still looks to LeBron. Austin Rivers told this story on his podcast when they were getting ready to play in the pandemic season, and they were trying to decide if they're going to keep the season going or not. They had this whole big meeting and all these players are talking. And eventually Udonis Haslem looks at LeBron and goes, what are we doing? Like, we're following you here. And so when LeBron comes out day of the All-Star game and goes, never mind, I'm not going to play. That just sets a bad tone for the entire night.
No, I agree. And I mean, you want to see, like, this could be his last All-Star game. I mean, we don't know what next season, what will happen next season, but it could be his last All-Star game to have him not play. I guess it's his prerogative, but at the same time, like, make your decisions before and don't like make it better by saying, hey, but he's okay. He'll play on Wednesday. It's like, okay, so we can't play today, but he can't play on Wednesday.
Right.
Like, wait, what are we doing here? I don't get it. And did Anthony Edwards get hurt in the buildup? Did he trip over Kevin Hart? Like, what exactly happened? Why can't he play? And there's just it was a little weird. It was a little weird.
Very strange, for sure. We're going to squeeze in a little Kings talk today. We're not going to talk about the All-Star game all day, I promise. I'm going to squeeze in a little Kings talk coming up. Are they facing a make or break stretch coming out of the All-Star break? We'll talk about that next. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. Jesse Tapia riding with us today on The Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. This is ESPN 1320 and Sacramento Sports Center.
Kyle, you got to read during this break. You want to hit that after when we come back, or you want to do it during the commercial?
Yeah, it's Underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second. Let's do it in this commercial.
Got it.
And then can you let Lisa know the time? Actually, I can message her. Never mind.
Well, if you're gonna do it during the break, it'll pop up for them.
I'm just gonna do the.
I'll play the last 10 seconds of the commercial before, and James is here, and then he'll give you a cue.
Okay. It sounds like tomorrow and Thursday, Joe will be with us. 100% don't do that.
All right, read in 10.
From fast breaks to buzzer beaters to block parties, there's nothing as exciting as basketball. Oh boy, I'll tell you. With Underdog, you can bring that excitement to wherever you watch, including with All-Star Weekend. I had lineups from Underdog on the three-point contest, the dunk contest, the celebrity game. Salute to my guy Drewski going lower than 4.5 points. Unfortunately, that lineup didn't count for me because 2 of the players did not play. Which is okay. You just get your money back, and you already know that I'll be building a lineup on Wednesday when the NBA is back in action. I think it's the Hornets and the Lakers, so I'll have a lineup on that game. It's super easy to play. Playing on their app is as easy as choosing higher or lower on player stats like threes made, points, rebounds, and more. Get those picks right, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Millions of fans have won over billions on Underdog. Will you be next? Join in on the fun by signing up with Underdog today using promo code KyleM, and you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, that Drewski under cashed, baby.
The 4.5.
Yeah.
He hit that 3. I'm like, oh no.
Like, no. Well, I think it was the first shot of the game. He took a 3 and just airballed the bleep out of it. And I was like, dude, we are set. And then he hit one later and I panicked.
Yeah, I think it was on. That was Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were having dinner for Valentine's Day, and it was on the TV, and I saw I saw him hit the 3 late, and I'm like,
Uh-oh.
oh,
Yeah, Terrell Owens also went way over his points. Yeah, Drewski 4 points. I had Terrell Owens higher than 8.5. He scored 18. But then Matt Barnes and Alicia Gray didn't play. So I just got a refund because I didn't have players from 2 different teams.
yeah.
All right, we're back at 5. James, you have to give him a cue again.
All right, you heard that, Kyle?
Mm-hmm. All right, James Ham's there. I'm Kyle Madsen at the home studio today. Jesse Tapia hanging out with us as well. I got into a new sport this weekend.
Oh no.
Like I was so I just needed to watch competition of some sort. And this weekend, and I'm not really a big college basketball guy, like I'll throw it on. But pre-tournament, I'm not, or pre-conference tournaments really, I'm not watching super close. But Tiger Woods Golf League, the TGL, was on yesterday. And the Bay Area has a team. Bay GC, what's up? They're 3-0. They had a doubleheader yesterday. And dude, it is so fun. I know that golf is a sport to watch, especially if you don't play golf, is pretty boring. Like it's very slow, it's very plodding. There's not a lot of, it's like it's just a kind of a boring sport, right?
Yeah.
But the TGL is all indoors. It's team play. So
How do you play indoor golf?
You hit it into a simulator.
Oh.
That tracks your ball speed and spin.
Of course.
And they have these fake courses, these like AI CGI courses. Everything, by the way, that's computerized now is called AI. But it's like these digitized courses, and so the ball then hits, and it shows you wherever it lands on the fairway, and then you hit again off of a little tee box. There's a rough, there's sand, and then there's fairway, and you hit out of whichever one where your ball lands. And then once it lands on the green, there's a green on the opposite side of the arena that a light comes down exactly where your ball hit. And then you set a ball down, and then you chip and you putt on their green, which moves based on the hole.
Okay.
It is incredible. It is such It is such a fun sport. Shout out to the TGL.
As somebody who worked at Copeland Sports for years,
okay,
I hit in the golf simulator all the time. Like that's like late at night. That's what we would do. I mean, there was a point where I was hitting probably 200 or 300 balls a night. Mm-hmm. And, so bad that, you start getting tendonitis from hitting the mat. So I enjoyed the simulator, like going in and hitting and like, cause we had all the courses, you could play all the different courses. So I'm kind of down with this also as somebody who, worked sporting goods during the Tiger Woods explosion and what he meant for golf. Golf is better when Tiger is in it. And when Tiger isn't in it, it really has just kind of died. Like
1,000%.
I mean, the guy brings in so many people and made it such a globalized sport, but also a sport for everybody, where before it just felt like it wasn't. And I think his ability to make it like an all-inclusive sport, like he changed the game, and I like absolutely amazing what he did for the game. So I'm glad that he's in it in some faction. Because like he's a superstar. He is their superstar. And when he's out of it, it's, it's just not really as exciting.
Yeah, man. It's the TGL and the way it's put together. It's all about like pace and excitement. Like there's a crowd and the players are all mic'd up. You can hear them talking to each other. It is just, if you've not gotten to catch it yet, just next time you see that it's on, just watch it for 10 minutes.
Just give it a shot. Yeah.
Dude, I got so locked in this weekend to the point that our house is set up where our kitchen sink, you can see the TV from the kitchen sink. So that's a lot of, I'll be cooking or washing dishes or doing whatever in the kitchen. I can see. I multiple times yesterday did the thing where I stopped what I was doing to go walk around to the other side of the counter and stand in front of the TV to watch what was going on. Like, because I really had to lock in.
Okay.
That's a big deal for me. That doesn't always happen. So shout out to the TGL, man.
I can see you like pulling all the dishes down and just rewashing all the clean dishes because you're sitting there enthralled by what's happening.
Yeah. Just the same plate for 20 minutes.
Hey, why are all of our dishes out? Well, I just decided to clean. I'm gonna wallpaper the bottom of the shelves. Like, what are you talking about? I'm being productive.
So yeah, anyways, that's what I got into yesterday. I didn't realize, as we shift gears to the Sacramento Kings here clumsily, I didn't realize that games start again on Wednesday, or a game starts again Wednesday.
Friday.
And the Kings don't play till Friday.
Yeah, the Lakers play on Wednesday. They're like, oh, LeBron, you have to play on Wednesday, so go ahead and take the weekend off.
I wonder if that's why he sat out the All-Star game, like out of spite. They're the one team that has to play on Wednesday.
Oh, maybe.
And so he just said, to heck with this.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, the Kings don't play till Friday. I was talking with our guy, Matt George, about this yesterday, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I think the first 11 games coming out of the break are the make or break stretch for the Kings this year. Like the make or break in terms of, can they make a push for a 6 seed, or are they just kind of a 500 team? I think these next 11 games are going to tell us.
Yeah, I think you can also get fooled into like a false sense of security early on because it starts with Golden State. Like I can see them losing to Golden State. I don't know if they'll beat Golden State or not, but Charlotte, Utah, at Houston, at Dallas, at Denver, versus San Antonio, at Lakers, versus Knicks, at Golden State, and Phoenix. Those games, you're right. Like if you don't come out of that 4 games over, and that would mean that you get 3 or 4 games up early and then go back and forth and stay at 500 throughout that stretch, you're going to have a really, really tough time being anything more than like a 42, 43 win team. And it's a tough stretch, but it gets a lot worse after that because they still have the monster road trip right after that.
Yeah, right. That's why, like, this is setting up the rest of your year. Are you giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room to lose a couple, or are you fighting for your life every single night to stay at 500 and stay in the top 10? And they're at 28 and 27 right now. Would you take 7-4 in that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have 7-4. That would be the 4 games over.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you don't hit that, there's a possibility this team's under 500 by the end of the season. So
yes. And that's why this is the make or break stretch.
2, 3. I'm going to give them 4, 5, 6. 6 with a possibility of a 7th in there. Yeah, but man, if not, I don't know.
So they're at Denver to wrap up a 4-game road trip. Then they come home to face De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs. Then they're at the Clippers and then home against the Knicks on a back-to-back.
Okay.
And then they get a couple days off. Then they're at Golden State and home against, at Golden State and at Phoenix on a back-to-back. This is just, man.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. Like Golden State, just to be honest, they're not a great team.
Game. Yep.
Phoenix isn't a great team, but you start at the beginning. So Charlotte is horrible. They're really the worst team in basketball, second worst team.
But beat you a Golden One last year.
Yep. Utah is bad. You've beat Houston multiple times this season.
Yep.
Somehow. Dallas is in transition, and you might be able to get them. Denver is pretty much a loss at Denver, especially at the end of a road trip. That Spurs game is pivotal. Because I mean, number one, it's going to be like a highly charged night.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be a wild night at Golden One Center with De'Aaron Fox and Wembanyama coming in. But then I think the Clippers are beatable. I don't think you're going to get the Knicks on the second night of a back-to-back. And then those final 2 games, Like if there's some way to go, I don't know. I don't think there is a way to go 8-3 in that stretch. And if you go 8-3, that's 5 games. So that would put you at 6 games over 500. That would be really, really difficult to
I'd be
do.
so shocked if they went 8-3.
Yeah. And I think even, 6-5 is probably more in line with, and I don't think if you survive that stretch at 6-5, that you're going to be okay. Again, take into consideration the New Orleans game as opposed to being 3 games over right now, you're
Exactly.
1. And that would have put you, again, if you go 6-5, that puts you 4 games over. If you go 7-4, that puts you 6 games over. That's just a really big difference right now when we're looking at the standings. So it's going to be tough. They have to figure out how to play defense. And that's like the biggest thing. Like, I don't know how they figure out how to play defense with like 2 practices.
Yeah, that gets outside of these next 11. I don't. And when you're trying to find optimism about the Kings, that's why it's really hard for me to do that. Sure, Zach LaVine might start making shots, and Malik Monk might cut down on his turnovers or whatever. You think maybe Keegan Murray starts hitting some threes on whatever you think they need to do offensively, or whatever they need to prove on offensively. I still turn back to the defense of it all, and I know that's the boring take, but if you can't get stops, like that's going to be a problem down the stretch of games, especially in a play-in scenario. Like go look at the play-in game last year against Golden State. Like the Kings offense was fine, but their defense was outstanding. They were sensational that entire game. And then they went and lost to a team that was just better defensively.
Yeah.
And
a team that had their number. I mean, really, a team that had their number. I think that's the biggest thing. I just keep looking at this, and we can talk about advanced metrics and all that stuff all we want, but the fact is the Kings, like, defensively have just hit the skid so bad that they've dropped all the way to number 20 in the league right now. They were like number 13 over their last 10, 15 games. They're just abominable. Like, they cannot play defense at all. And if you can't figure out how to handle one side of the court, and I know we keep hearing this, it doesn't matter who starts and who finishes. You know what, though? It does. It does matter who starts and who finishes. Starting the game, it does matter, because we've seen it too many times in the last 2 weeks where Domantas Sabonis picks up 2 or 3 fouls in the first quarter or the early second quarter. He's got 3 fouls. And that's because your defense is so bad on the perimeter that they're allowing everybody to jailbreak. Your defense is so bad going up for rebounds that he's picking up fouls trying to rebound. And on top of that, your offense isn't there yet, and he keeps picking up moving screens because guys aren't used to where he's at, and they're rushing to take off and go, to use the screen, and getting him in foul trouble because they're going too early. So there's all of these pieces that are sort of moving that you have to figure out how to tighten up. And that's where, like Kyle, we talked about it last week, but I'm more and more leaning towards you got to make a change right now and figure out a way to get Keon Ellis into the starting lineup to open games, just for the fact that you keep Domantas Sabonis clean as far as fouls as long as possible. And if you can't do that, if you can't keep the pressure off of him, then you have no shot this season. And to me, the only way to do that is to put 2 defenders on the floor, Keegan Murray and someone else. And the only way to do that, I believe, is put Keon Ellis in the lineup. I don't know what that means for anybody else. Again, we don't coach this team, and you and I both know that there's a good chance that we go to Friday's game and it's going to be the same starting lineup that we've seen. But that's not the way it should be. This is just, I mean, that's fine. You want to keep everybody's feelings intact. That's fine. But if you want to win games, you have to do something dramatic here. And that means you've got to go a different direction with at least one of your starters. And
you have to do it now, man. And I don't disagree with you. Like, if I had to bet money on who the starting lineup is going to be Friday against Golden State, I think it's going to be the same starting 5 we've seen.
Yep.
But that's a button that you have to push now. You have 27 games to work with. And it's not easy. Like, this 11 game stretch coming up is really tough. And the 16 games after that aren't easy either. So this is something to me that you had time off to figure out. You have time off to have conversations that need to be had. Those players that those conversations are had with have time to wrap their brains around it and prepare for the rest of the season. And frankly, if you're going to, I'm just going to say player X, because when you start bringing in specific names into this, people get weird about it. So, actually, to hell with it. You know what? If you tell DeMar DeRozan, hey, you got to come off the bench, gives us the best chance to make a run and to win, is if you're the sixth man, and he can't deal with that. Okay, like that tells me everything I need to know about where DeMar DeRozan and the Kings are, or Malik Monk or Zach LaVine, whoever it is that has to go to the bench. If they can't deal with that, and they aren't all in, okay, it's good to know for next year.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle, they have to have an honest discussion and then ask someone to raise their hand. Who will come off the bench? Like, and I would just like pull the three guys aside, pull Monk, pull DeRozan, pull Zach LaVine aside, and say, we have got to put Keelan Ellis in the starting lineup. Is there one of you, before we make the decision ourselves, because we're going to, is there one of you guys that would be willing to go back to the bench or go to the bench and help this team in a different way? I don't think you're going to get that. I honestly feel like they're going to walk into the second half with the same exact issues that they've had, and then they're going to try to make changes quicker in the game. So maybe the 5 or 6 minute mark, we're going to see, tinkering with who's coming into the game, who's coming out of the game. But like, I just think this is a tough spot to be in for Doug Christie. And that's why you, as a general manager, as a front office personnel, you make decisions for not just the best player available in trade, but you make decisions for fit, and you make decisions for what will work on the floor. And you already had not only 11 years of Zach LaVine to look at of tape and 16 years of DeMar DeRozan tape to look at. You also had 3 years of Chicago Bulls tape to look at. And if you didn't look at that and realize that they haven't fit together in the past, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's part of the job, is to find ways in order to fit players in. And I guess making splashy trades, maybe that's what your owner wanted or what you wanted to do as a general manager. But it's also a good way to have that written on your NBA, general manager tombstone.
No doubt. I want to address something that Brian Cruz said in the chatty house at youtube.com/ESPN1320 and twitch.tv/ESPN1320. Salute to Brian. He said, this is a silly conversation that will not happen until they get a significant losing streak. Cool. Then they're going to be mid.
Yeah.
They're going to be about 500.
Didn't they just have
a couple games over
losing streak? They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and significant losing streak to me, like, okay, so if you lose 2 and then win 1 and then lose 3 and then win 1, that's not a significant losing streak, but it's really clear something needs to happen and something needs to change. And to me, watching this team the last 2 weeks, it's just really clear that something needs to be different. Because if not, you're a little bit better than the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, they're going to fool themselves into believing that hey, we just went 3-4 of our last 4 games. We may have figured some things out. We're going to be able to figure this out. We're going to have a couple of days of practice. They're going to fool themselves into believing that. I personally, that's what I think is going to happen. That they're going to be like, hey, I believe that we can figure this thing out. We can piece it together on the fly. It's like, okay, well, like, your 27th defensive rating in the last 3 weeks. So what are you going to figure out in that much time? Is someone going to get 4 inches taller and become a shot blocker? Did you work with somebody the entire All-Star weekend to see if they can block shots at a high rate or protect the rim at a high rate? Did somebody just magically get better lateral quickness? I'm just asking. I don't
just
think that
asking
happened
questions
over the All-Star break. So
I don't think it probably did either.
No.
All right. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Matson. Jesse Tapia is riding with us today. Got a little bit of NFL stuff on the calendar starting today that we'll get into. And the Sacramento A's may only have one manager the entire time they're in existence. We'll talk about that next. James Ham, I'm Kyle. Jesse Tapia on the ones and twos on ESPN 1320 and Sacramento Sports Center.
Oh, good.
Kyle said Sacramento A's.
Can we just be
Yes.
adults here?
We can be adults, Kyle.
If the San Francisco Chronicle can do it, then so can we.
That's right. They put a patch on their arm and everything, Kyle. There's a patch. You're right, Kamara. Fode. They need that first round pick. Oh, do they need it? I will say that if somehow they don't make the playoffs this year, they would, moving forward, they couldn't trade their 2026, but they would have access to their 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 picks. They would have access to 6 years of first round picks. And on top of that, they'd have access to additional picks because they have a 2027 extra and a 2031 extra. That 31 could actually mean quite a bit because it would allow you to do different things. Yeah, BS for the Kings to have a first round pick. If the Kings pick is top 12 protected this year. So if they miss the playoffs and it's after the lottery. So if they miss the playoffs and then they go through the lottery and they are the 11th spot going into the lottery, but 2 teams up behind them jump up into the spot and push them back, that would be catastrophic. That would mean, if they're the 13th pick, they lose it. Although I don't know what catastrophic means at this point because,
it would just be nice to have that deal done. Dude's not even on the team anymore.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, Jesse. Yeah, I would love to hear from Mitch.
Hey, just know, Jesse, you're gonna use the dump button, not me. Cool.
Is the red button not showing up there?
Well, it is, but I don't know how quickly I need to hit it and all that stuff.
Just if someone says the F word, just jump up and just hit it.
Okay. We'll double hit it. All right.
Well, don't double hit it because then you double dump and then it's a whole thing. Would I trade a first for Myles Garrett? Yeah, I think so. There's some financial stuff with that. In a vacuum, yes, I would trade multiple firsts for Myles Garrett. But there's some financial stuff with that I think probably take the 49ers out of the running. If everybody, while we're at a break, could hit the thumbs up, by the way. And if you don't subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. That'd be great.
They would be close to a 6 seed, Jim. I don't know exactly. I mean, that puts him up 45 wins. Maybe not. But it's going to be around that.
Should be 17-10. Yeah. It could.
Say that again.
Me?
Oh, okay, cool. He said
No, yeah, I was talking to James. You don't need a cue from James anymore. Come back right now.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
James Ham there. I'm Kyle Madsen at the home studio today. We're COVID negative, though. Salute. That was a big time win for me this morning because, man, when I went to bed last night, I was like, hey, if this is what this is, I'm going to be real upset because there's a Kings game that I would like to go to on Friday. And I was hanging out with my dad yesterday and my mom. So I was like, oh, my God. But we're good. We're safe.
You don't be patient one. Yeah.
No, that's I've already been down that road. It's the worst. A couple of smaller notes before we get back into some NBA stuff. Starting today at 1:00 on the NFL calendar, 1:00 p.m. Pacific time, teams can designate franchise or transition tags for players.
Okay.
I don't think the 49ers or Raiders are going to extend any franchise tags. I'd be pretty surprised. The Niners just don't have any players worth the money that it would take to franchise them, because a franchise tag is a 1 year fully guaranteed deal at an average of the top. I think it's 5 salaries at the position. So it can get a little pricey, and it works for a player like T. Higgins. The Bengals franchise tagged him because, okay, you get him at 1 year, you can kick his extension down the road, and you're paying him, on an average annual value basis, not a ton this year. But I don't expect the Niners or Raiders to tag anybody. Like Talanoa Hufanga is not worth that for the Niners. Dre Greenlaw's not. Travarius Ward is not. So I don't think we'll see any news on that front.
Okay.
But it is a deadline or it is a date, trying to keep up with what's going on in the NFL. The franchise tag is kind of interesting though, because it is a key point of leverage in the 49ers talks with Brock Purdy. Like, I think they want to get a long-term deal done. I don't think they want to mess around with play out this year and then we'll franchise tag you and we'll see where we're at. Like, I don't think that's a good precedent for them to set. And we've talked about this before, but like when they get the deal done matters almost more than how much it costs.
Okay.
And I think you set such a bad standard or precedent if you go into this year and Brock Purdy does not have a new contract.
Oh, I totally agree.
That's just so it is. There's just, I don't think it's going to happen. But if Brock and his agent are on some astronomical number, that's what the Niners are going to look at. And they're going to go, well, you could play out this year and then we can franchise tag you for way less than that and figure out your extension in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I think the Brock Purdy thing is interesting because I think we're all just hoping that they do the right thing and just get the deal done. Like, right. I mean, if it's going to cost an extra couple of million now to get it done today versus waiting, you just have to get it done. This is such a huge astronomical number that's going to fall onto their books that I don't think a couple of million here or there are really going to matter. And you just have to get the deal done and hope that you do the right thing and hope that he lives up to the contract.
Yeah. Like that's just it. Like, he's going to get paid, man. Whether you think he should or not, like, he's going to. So,
yeah, I totally agree.
We'll see
whether it's if you or someone else, and it's not like you got someone else lined up to fill the void left by what that would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other smaller news: the A's extended Mark Kotsay over the weekend.
Yeah.
Signed him through 2028. I think this is good as they try and find some stability. Bob Melvin was obviously there for a long time, but man, it was just really clear when you and I were down at the Sawyer talking to some of the players before they left for spring training, how much they all like Mark Kotsay. Like, he's like ride with him.
Yeah, he's like the old ball coach, like he's been in the organization or around this group forever. And I think he's the right guy to sort of usher them into this new, like, really difficult phase. I think that, we saw the players at the Sawyer like last month or the month before, right? And they're embracing the experience of being here in Sacramento. And to have Mark Kotsay get this 3-year extension, which puts him in Sacramento the entire time that the team is allegedly going to be here, it might be longer, is a good thing because he wants to build something. He has pride in wearing green and gold and what, the franchise means to him, even if it's in a different location. And as someone who went through multiple relocation sagas, having somebody to lead the players during that time is a big deal. Like his connection to the players, his ability to say, hey, look, this is what's happening. Everybody else calm down. We got this, that kind of stuff. It's going to mean something because stability means everything when everything else around you is unstable. And that's what the A's are, the Sacramento A's, the whatever you want to call them. It's a total, mess of a franchise that's in the middle of a complete upheaval where they're moving to a temporary stadium for 3 years and maybe longer. And then they might move to Las Vegas or they might not. And like that, if you're a young player and your job is to focus on 162 days of baseball every year, like little tiny distractions like this little tiny distractions can set you off, but massive distractions, having somebody walk into your clubhouse and start asking questions about this stuff, it can really, really set you off and put you in a bad frame of mind when you got a job to do. And so having somebody that you can rely on to be the voice of reason for the players is going to be, for me, it's going to be huge.
And just establishing a culture where if you help oversee, what was it, a 19 game improvement from a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Like, that should be rewarded. So shout out to the A's for extending Mark Kotsay, who should be the only manager of the Sacramento A's. And I'm making I'm on the fly here. We're just going to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I'm going to call them the Sacramento A's.
I've felt that too. Like that's what we're going to do. Okay. From here on out, we're just going to call them the Sacramento A's. Even if someone gets mad at us.
It's not to be disrespectful to them. It's not out of spite. It's just really difficult when you're talking about a sports team that has a city and a name attached to it. Like, you're going to alternate between the two. You sometimes say the A's, sometimes you say Sacramento, sometimes you say the 49ers, sometimes you say San Francisco, sometimes you say the Raiders, sometimes you say Las Vegas.
Yeah, as writers, we have to find new ways to say it.
Right. The green and gold. Right? Like, there's, sure, the athletics, there's all these different. I don't want to have to try and dance around not having a city to say. They play in Sacramento. They're going to be in Sacramento for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years. They're going to be the Sacramento A's.
Yes.
On this show. And in the San Francisco Chronicle.
That's it. We're using them as like our beacon of like, it's the right thing to do. In all honesty.
It is. And do you know how ridiculous it looks on MLB schedules? When the A's are on the schedule, it just says ATH.
Yeah.
That looks dumb.
It does.
It's like Athens.
Anyway. Athens, Georgia. Do they play there? Hey, you never know.
There's a minor league team in Athens?
Yeah.
I think.
Probably. I'll have to ask Ali and see if he has the minor league hat from Athens.
For sure. One other thing, some NBA news that's not really news. Howard Beck, who is on the Real Ones podcast with Sacramento legend Logan Murdoch and Raja Bell. And I was at their live show this weekend. Had a great time, by the way, out at the Punchline in San Francisco. And Howard Beck was talking about how there's like these things you just kind of hear and with player movement and stuff. And he's like, but I can't, like, I don't have it on, like, I don't want to say it here. And then gets bullied into saying it. And he's like, okay, I don't want to say this because aggregators are going to grab it. And I don't want aggregators to grab it because I'm not reporting it. But I talked to a lot of executives around the league, and some executive out of the blue the other day just said, like, don't be surprised if John Morant is the next big name to move. And it immediately got aggregated. It's all over the internet now that the John Morant's going to get traded, according to Howard Beck.
I think it's interesting you were there for the moment. That's fun to be there for the moment when it happens. Right?
Dude, and it was, as he's saying this, as he's like, well, okay, I don't want to, okay, fine, I'll say it, but like, don't aggregate. I'm like, you're a host. Whatever you're about to say is not going to go well for you.
Yeah, Howard's going to have some self-awareness there. Like, you know how the game is played, pal.
Well, yeah, and I think he knew 1,000%. This is not an anti-Howard Beck thing, by the way. He knew in that moment, okay, he slipped up by saying, I don't want to say this. I can't say this, because now everybody's like, wait, what is it? It's the same thing when James is like, yeah, I heard this thing, but like, I can't really, it's like, okay, well, not like, who's it involved? What is it?
Well, that in like Howard's done this for too long, and Howard's too good at what he does. Like to know that's not going to get aggregated and picked up and become like a huge story. Yeah, I mean, Howard Beck is the president of the Pro Basketball Writers Association, and he's been doing this forever. He also is a UC Davis guy, so go Aggies. I don't know why you put it out there, but again, this is like this fine line that we dance as reporters, where something to be true, but whether you're going to report it because you're unsure about the sources or you're not comfortable, whatever it might be. That's where there's so many things that we know that we can't report. And sometimes you do let things slip that you probably shouldn't have, just because you've known it for so long and become comfortable with the idea of what that story is, and you've also checked a bunch of sources, but you also sometimes you feel like it's not your story to tell. And
Sure.
so for him to do that, it is what it is. Like, again, Howard doesn't need to get famous, but it's one of those moments where he's probably going to look back on and like regret slightly.
A little bit of peer pressure goes a long way.
Yeah,
1,000%, dude. He knew the minute I
Especially at the
felt
live
so bad
show,
for
we're
him in the
feeling
moment.
good.
yeah.
Oh, felt so bad for him in the moment. It's like, oh, this is gonna go bad, Howard. Like, oh no.
What are you doing, Howard? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't let Logan Murdoch talk you into something.
Well, I don't know if it was Logan as much as it was Raja Bell. Raja Bell's scary, dude.
Oh, all right.
No? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
there was
He's a
another.
tough guy.
I'm trying to get this tweet to load. We were talking about journalism, and a columnist out of Miami said one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life on the internet yesterday. Okay, I can't get this to load up right now, but we have to step aside for a second anyways. So we're going to do that while I go find this tweet, and we'll continue this conversation coming up next on The Insider. Second hour coming up. He's James. I'm Kyle. Jesse Tapia hanging out with us today. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Center.
Oh, good.
We forgot about Mitch.
No, we didn't.
Mitch is always there.
Mitch is just hanging out, dude. We'll get Mitch, I promise.
Wheezy, this is interesting. There's some people in the know on the Vegas gambling scene say that the Seminole Tribe wants to pay for a stadium in Sac. They own the Hard Rock Casino in Wheatland. Yeah, especially with the other tribe that owns Sky River paying for the soccer stadium, I would not doubt that we'll have like other people. I've heard that they've been lining up people to build a stadium in Sacramento if they are able to get, even if they get like a wink, wink, nod, nod. Hey, go ahead. Whether it's the A's or it's expansion. I also think that expansion is real. Like if you're Major League Baseball probably wants to expand, and the fact that they have a city that's being proven up right now is going to be a good thing for them. And a city where a team left 90 miles away. That's pretty big.
Mitch, I'm probably watching this whole card. It's gonna be good fights.
I don't know if it's a Seminole Tribe or not, Nick V. But I mean, I know Seminole Tribe is definitely in Florida and definitely in Oklahoma. I don't know if they're involved or not. But I do know that there are other people that have been involved. And I agree with Yiddy. The A's and their history should stay here in Northern California. But then what is Major League Baseball going to do? Not get paid an expansion fee by a broke owner? Just saying. Oh. That's interesting, Nick V.
Went to the movies this weekend. I think they got to go back to the old chairs because it's tough for me not to fall asleep sitting in those chairs they got now with the old recliners and stuff like that.
The movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too comfortable now.
It is so hard to not fall asleep in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, especially if they give you beer, like if you can
It's
drink.
too good of a time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be a little stressed out.
Guys.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the ESPN 1320 Insiders. Get ready for the most up-to-date sports news and talk with the ESPN 1320 Insiders.
Hour number 2, that's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. Jesse Tapia is hanging out with us today. Hanging out with you till noon. Then we'll hand it off to D-Lo and KC. We were talking at the break, and I got that tweet to load from a journalist in Miami that I want to talk about. But Jesse, you were mentioning at the break, the movie theaters are too comfortable now.
Oh yeah,
that's an elite take by you. I couldn't agree more.
I saw Captain America this weekend. I was trying to stay awake during the first part just because I'm not even because the movie was that bad. I'm too comfortable here. Like, this is nice.
That's it, bro. Like, I struggle to stay awake in movies, not because I'm like, oh man, I don't like this movie, but dude, you let me recline, get my feet up, get a little food, get some beer in me. Oh,
temperature's always nice in the movie theater too. It's not too cold, it's not too warm. It's just perfect.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
I used to go straight from shoot around and then go to the theater in downtown Sac, in the downtown plaza area, the Doco. And I would go and watch a movie. Sometimes I'd fall asleep. Sometimes I wouldn't. But, you got your bag like huddled up next to you so no one steals your stuff.
Yeah, James, I got to head to the movie theater. I got to get my nap in.
Yep.
Dude, it's the best napping place in the country. There's no better place to nap than a movie theater. And it's hella dark. Come on, man. It's the best.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I could be totally enthralled with the movie. I'm going to fall asleep for 6 minutes at some point. Like, that's just the thing that's going to happen.
When you wake up, you know what? I'm ready to go. Let's get the rest of this movie. I'm ready now.
Facts, dude. That's just it. I'm not going to go back to sleep. I'm just going to catch a little shut eye real quick. Not the end of the
My wife will smack me because I'm snoring. Like, oh, yeah. Oh, I'm awake. Yeah. I'm awake. No, you weren't. Yeah. You weren't awake. I could hear you breathing. Oh, yeah, Kyle, you're not here. We have
nap breath.
We have a band coming in right now to play
what?
at 11. We have a band coming into play right now.
Did we figure out who Jesse?
They are behind Jesse. Yeah, they just walked in. This is Tom Montana. Is that what it is? I think
that sounds right.
Yeah, Tom.
It's a 98 Rock show.
It is, and I heard that they're really loud. Although, like he's a really cool dude, but they're going to be noisy. So we'll see how
Montana
it goes.
Is Tony's lesser known brother.
Joe's cousin.
It's always a funny thing, like having concerts like during our shows.
See, we've never had to deal with this.
Is it funny?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Is it funny?
You got to make it into a joke at this point.
Is funny the right word?
I always try to sneak out like very quickly, so I'm not part of anything. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how loud this is. It's they're supposed to be here at 11 doing their show, and I don't see a lot of other people here. I'm intrigued to see what happens. Like outside people, we don't have new outside people flooding into the building.
If you want to hear the latest from Tom Montana, you'll be able to vaguely hear it in the background of D-Lo and KC, which is coming up at noon. All right, James Ham there. I'm Kyle Madsen. Jesse Tapia is riding with us today because I am in the home studio. We were talking about journalism and Howard Beck and how, he started to say a thing and then didn't want to say it because he's afraid to get aggregated and he wasn't reporting it. And then it did wind up getting aggregated. Omar Kelly, who is a columnist for the Miami Herald, had a wild tweet over the weekend because it's now coming out. Do you remember the whole Richie Incognito, Jonathan Martin Bullygate thing?
Yes.
Okay, so it's now coming out that like all the Jonathan Martin side of that was all like a lie. And I don't want to necessarily get into that, but here's what Omar Kelly, the columnist for the Miami Herald, wrote. This is a tweet on X, allegedly Twitter. Bullygate was the most painful period of my journalistic life. It was a never-ending onslaught of PR stunts from one team meant to fit an agenda which was that Richie Incognito was a bad man and the Dolphins put Jonathan Martin in a horrible environment and made him want to quit football. Truth is, his heart wasn't into it. He didn't like being criticized. He wanted to go home. As a media member, you had to report things you knew were lies. My brother in Christ. You 100% do not have to do that as a media member. In fact, I would argue that your job as a media member is to be like, hey, the team's lying. Here's what's being said. Here's what the facts are. They're lying. What an insane thing to write on the internet.
That's
we can
absolutely
see you, dog.
That's your credibility's gone. Like it's one thing to say this is what somebody said. It's another thing to report it as if it's just like the only truth that's out there. Like that's really bad. Like, oof.
Omar Kelly is not my favorite Dolphins writer. I will say that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and like I said, the entire Bullygate thing, I don't know enough about it to know exactly where that's gone. But Omar Kelly saying as a media member you had to report things you knew were lies is just bananas.
I think
wild thing to say.
He's not framing what he's trying to put out there the right. At least I'm going to guess he's putting something.
Go ahead.
I think what he's trying to say is that you were being told things that you knew weren't true, but they were being like told in a press conference setting or whatever. And so you had to quote somebody and put out what they're saying as an answer. And like, if you don't have the response to refute it, then you are putting things out there that are untrue, but it's somebody else's voice. If you're reporting something that you know to be untrue, that you're just like saying, hey, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and you know it all to be untrue, then that's one thing. If you're going to a press conference and you're asking the question and they're saying an answer and you're taking their quote and you're putting it into a story, and even if you know it to be untrue, but you can't prove it to be untrue, it's still something that you have to report as it's being said. You got me?
I get that. Yeah, but so you know it's not true, but you can't prove it. What do you mean by that?
Also, it's not your idea. Well, because if you're a journalist, you need more than one source, to say whether something's true or not. So, like, again, there are things that happen, like standing on an NBA floor that someone tells me that I know are just flat out untrue, right? And I'm not going to sit there and report what it is that they're saying that's just a flat out lie. But there's also things that when when you go to a press conference, somebody can say something and from your understanding of a story that what they're saying isn't factually correct. And you can correct them if you've got enough information to correct them. But there are also certain things that you're just like, okay, I don't know how to report that what they're saying is a lie.
And wouldn't you just not write it at all?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times
if you know that Coach A says, player X is dealing with an ankle. I'm just making something up. Player X is dealing with an ankle injury, and you know that player X doesn't have an ankle injury. Wouldn't you just not use that quote?
Well, yeah, there is that, but you can say that according to the team, here's spokesman, he does have an ankle injury. You can say, according to my sources, that's incorrect.
Right.
But either way, if a team is saying that XYZ, I mean, part of your job is to say not to back up what they're saying, but to put into, like, it's going to be out on video, it's going to be everywhere else. It's to actually quote them and say, this is what they said. Like, I had a situation years ago where Marvin Bagley, I heard, was going to miss. He wouldn't be back until after the All-Star break. And we were 2 or 3 weeks before the All-Star break. I wrote a story, went to go confirm with someone within the team, and I was told that's wrong. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's wrong. And it was like, no, it's wrong. And if you put that out there, then you're going to be proven incorrect. And I'm like, okay. So I had to back off the story because I'm not going to put out something that's factually incorrect about a specific player, right? Turns out, sure enough, he was out until after the All-Star break. And someone lied about what his injury was and what was happening. And so I got caught in the middle of this gigantic thing. When the eventual report came out, 2 days before the All-Star break, that Marvin Bagley, or 3 days before the All-Star, would return to play after the All-Star break, I vented in a very loud and boisterous way in the locker room to media relations. I lost my cool because the worst thing you can do in this situation is lie.
Yeah.
And that's always been the biggest issue with me, is like, you can tell me you can't say what's going on. You can tell me, hey, that's, as a team, we haven't decided what we're going to put out. Or you can say, like, hey, look, we don't know what's happening, or I personally don't know what's happening. The medical staff might know what's happening, and I'll try to get you an answer, but there's nothing I can do. All of those things. What you can't do is lie in the situation, because trust is broken. And that's what a lot of, that's what sources are. They're trust. It's you and another person, or multiple people, or someone gives you a bit of information. You take that information, you go and check it out with other sources. Next thing you know, you've had it backed up on multiple, in multiple ways, and you understand that it's true. And so you run with it. But that's like, it's always muddied and dirty, especially in a situation like this. Now, to find out later that someone totally lied to you the entire time, and that you were putting something out there that was false. Yeah. Like, if you played a part in saying all of these things, if you wrote these things that you knew were false at the time, then that's on you. But if things prove to be false after the fact, when you had sources telling you that this is exactly what happened, and they just lied to you, that's tough.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know exactly what he meant, but the sentence, as a media member, you had to report things you knew were lies, just seems insane.
Yeah.
And you can't,
I agree.
Maybe it's what you're saying here. And like, man, he had something on background or something from one person that, or whatever the team was saying, just didn't add up. And he felt like, oh man, I got to get this out, I guess. I don't know. That just doesn't look
tough.
good.
It's tough when someone gives you a press release and the press release isn't correct. You can put out the press release and say, according to the team, this,
right,
and not have anything to say outside of that. Or you can dive into why that's not true.
Sure.
If you've got the sources to back it up. And it's just a brutal position to be in.
Yeah, I don't envy it, for sure. Speaking of stuff I saw on the internet, did you see what Kevin Durant said about NBA fans yesterday?
Oh, he always has something to say.
I need everybody. I need you to understand that I like Kevin Durant.
I do too.
I think Kevin Durant cares about basketball in a way that not a lot of people care about basketball. B, I think he's spot on. He said, quote, "I think it's more fun to complain about the NBA than to actually watch it. Crazy. Cancel All-Star Weekend and let's just give everybody a break since we're so miserable around this time."
Huh. Okay.
He's right, dude. Like, if all you're gonna do is complain about All-Star Weekend and complain about the dunk contest and complain about the 3-point shootout, and oh my God, Steph and Sabrina Ionescu didn't do their showdown thing again, and oh my God, Caitlin Clark didn't want to do it, and oh my God, there's nobody I know in the dunk contest, and then oh my God, the game sucked so bad it wasn't competitive. Like, all right, then just get rid of the damn thing. Like, just punt it altogether. If it's for fans and the fans all hate it, goodbye then.
I agree, and I also I don't know that it helps you, or to combat Kevin's take, it helps you that Draymond Green is literally on your broadcast telling the same thing. Yes. Is literally saying how much it sucks and saying how, all of these random things that you're like, oh boy. Yeah, that doesn't help your brand. But again, Kevin Durant has the cachet and, the long history of just speaking his truth, that you're like, okay, I'm going to listen. And I don't disagree with him. Like, the break, like I needed a break. There wasn't a Sacramento Kings player in it, and I took the weekend away from the game. I tuned in to watch because I had to go. I went on with Jake Gaden on and Brandon on Channel 13 over the weekend. So I had to at least have an understanding of what was happening in the game. But overall, I didn't want to touch anything basketball related because we just went through like a crazy trauma here in Sacramento where you're, working like nonstop chasing a story of that's like huge magnitude.
Yeah.
And so I get it. I get there are times where you just want to step away. And I think the players should have a longer adjustment period here. And guys like Kevin Durant, they get sent to All-Star weekend. Like, I'm sure he would have rather raised his hand and said, I don't want to be there. And can you fill my spot?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you got to be there. It's like, no, I would prefer not to be. So, yeah, just give me 5 days, 6 days off so I can recover. And, again, look at their team situation. It's a mess. And he probably feels the same way, like wants to get away for a week, but he can't because there's an event you got to go to. And there's 17 events within the event that you have to go to. And there's all of these things that you're required to go do and these media hits and all these things. And it just drags you down. You can't get away, especially for someone who's an introvert like Kevin Durant.
He had more to say, and we will dig into that, as well as Tim Bontemps has a new straw poll out, a new MVP straw poll. And we can dive into that because there's a couple interesting things in that I want to get into next. That's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders, and we're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. This is ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
Okay.
Bless you.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with you. The home run derby is probably the most fun. And I also, like, if you're gonna do a slam dunk contest and you're gonna have Matt McClung go out there and be like the star of the slam dunk contest, which nobody knows outside of the slam dunk contest. He's made more money in the slam dunk contest than he has as an NBA player. If you're gonna do that, then why are we keeping like the crazy dunkers who go on tour and do nothing but dunk all the time? It's almost like the longest drive guys. Like, if you're gonna do like a driving contest and then you don't bring in like the longest driver guys who hit the ball like 50, 60, 70 yards further than everybody else, like what are we doing? So I don't know. I would like to either like embrace the rando dunker, which I would be all for. Like bring in like the 5 best dunkers in the world, and I don't care who they are, and maybe pit them against the best dunker in the NBA, right? Or like bring in real people to go and dunk. Like I don't need like Obi Toppin's brother and other people that you're like, who is that? So I would be here for like a reinvention of the slam dunk contest where either it's like, hey, Zach LaVine, can you come back out and can you dunk? Or like the tandem, like maybe if you're gonna do that, like, hey, Zach LaVine, can you and Malik Monk come out and do dunk contest stuff? Aldrin J, the Man U season is just a disaster, an absolute disaster.
I'm so dialed into this.
Did you catch that the other day?
Which one?
Which one?
USA Canada the first time.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was fire.
Incredible.
Big
Incredible
hockey
sports.
unit.
Oh yeah, they were fighting, right?
Yeah, I think it was
like
5
immediately.
seconds into the
Puck
game,
dropped, gloves dropped.
That's all I saw was a fight. Like I looked up and I'm like, hey, everyone's fighting.
If anybody does Underdog, by the way, Connor McDavid to get a point is a layup in your lineup. FYI. Hey, Jesse, is Mitch still there?
Yep.
Gotta love him.
Connor McDavid to score a goal.
Yeah, Scooter, I think a few players did, and I hope they do. I hope that like real
Back in 5.
dunkers come back.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
James Ham there. Jesse Tapia hanging out with us as well. I'm Kyle Madsen from the home studio today. We're talking about Kevin Durant and his All-Star Weekend thoughts. Here's his reply to somebody, and this is the other kind of angle of this that I wanted to get into. He said, "My point is fans complain about everything. Like nothing is good enough for the fans right now. Only thing they enjoy is playoffs, trade deadline, free agency, and when players beef with each other." You think that's accurate?
Yes. No. I mean, like there are a ton of fans that show up every single night to watch NBA basketball. And
Sure.
I think like to disregard those people, like the really noisy minority, I think that you could say like, yeah, that's all they care about is trade deadline, free agency, the draft, and playoffs. But I do think that there are a lot of other fans that show up. And I think there are a lot of people who like took a trip to San Francisco this weekend to go watch like the greatest players in the world all get together and play basketball. So I don't want to discredit like your common fan. I think there's like definitely people are missing the boat on who the common fan is and what the common fan is pulling for. Social media taints everything. Like, yeah, you hear a ton about this and a ton about free agency, a ton about trades, on social media, but you show up and there's, 18,000 fans at Golden One Center. And of those 18,000, there's probably, 12,000 who have social media and 6,000 that don't know what's going on with everything and don't know what's happening and don't know the whole why Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox don't follow each other on, or don't even care why they don't follow each other on Instagram anymore.
I think we lost Kyle Madsen.
Did we lose Kyle?
His mic might be cooked.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, he'll be back in here. So let's hop in here. Mitch, let's get your call real quick. Mitch, what's up?
How we doing, guys?
Good. What's up, Mitch?
Yeah, not much. It's great having this. Well, you guys had a good weekend. You deserve it. By the way, they're gonna call the A's, the Oakland A's. They have to get rid of the owner. Are they like Madonna? Just one name. Call them Sacramento. That's where they play. It's like I hate when the Giants and Jets. They're in New Jersey. Call them New Jersey Giants and Jets. That's it. I wish they would bring up Devin Carter. I don't know what sense it falls. We know he's a bust. I know he's 6'5", 6'4", so that's pretty good. And please, I wouldn't mind them not making the playoffs. Get a chance for Cooper or those two guys from Rutgers. And I read that Cooper Flag might stay in the college. They got to talk to the guy. He's got to go. He's one and done. He's going to be the top pick. I want to hopefully Sacramento has a chance to get Cooper Flag.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate the call.
There you go. I love it.
If missing the playoffs means the Kings get Cooper Flag, great.
Oh yeah, lose every game the rest of the season.
Yeah,
just straight up every game the rest of the season.
It seems like he's got to figure it out.
If that's well, he brought up Devin Carter, which is another thing that I wanted to get to today. Because does the Markelle Fultz signing mean that Devin Carter's rookie season is just over?
Oh, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. No, the next 10 to, what do we say, 11 games? I would say Devin Carter season's over. After we get done with those 11 games, if the Kings are a game under 500 or they're 2 games over 500 and they're now in the 11th spot and it's not a race for the play-in as much as it is like a foregone conclusion that you're not going to make the playoffs, then you bring Devin Carter back and you get him on the court and you let him play out the rest of the season.
Are they going to do that, though, with 16 games left? Like, everything they've done to this point, to me, looks like a team going, hey, just do whatever you can to get into the dang postseason.
Yeah.
Whatever, just to throw players together and let's see if we can just talent our way to the 8th seed. And that's why I don't think you're going to see a point where they just pull the plug unless they lose like 9 in a row here.
Yeah, I
And
think it'll
I
be
don't think
like,
they're going to do that.
if it happens, it'll probably be like the last 7 or 8 games of the season. But I think Markelle Fultz just gives you like a seasoned hand, somebody who can, if you need like some backup minutes, sure. If you have an injury, he might have to play a little bit more. But overall, I don't think you're going to invest heavily in him as a player at this point. I would be shocked to see him come out and play 15, 20 minutes a game. Again, he was on the bench last game in uniform, which, is neither here nor there. I did not think that there was any way he was going to play. He hasn't played in over 9 months. So, like, what exactly are we doing here? And I'm not saying don't go sign him. Now you're going to give him an opportunity. Now you have a backup point guard. He's going to have a week to really, like, I assume he's been in Sacramento. I assume he's been working out with the training staff. I assume they're gearing him up, making sure he goes through contact and all that stuff. But like, this is a return to play situation as much as anything. And I do think that he's a better player today than Devin Carter, just straight up. Like, Devin Carter doesn't have the experience.
Yep.
He's again a young player behind the 8 ball who missed 7 months or 8 months of basketball action. To thrust him back into the starting not the starting lineup, but into the rotation in early January, like, it was a disaster, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
He may have wanted that, but as a franchise, you have to do what's best for the player. Not what the player wants, not what you want. You have to do what's best for the player. And a lot of times what's best for the player is for him to sit and watch and learn and go play in the G League and get a bunch of minutes, not one game, and grow as a player and get up to speed and learn how to play. So we don't watch a kid go out there and 3 minutes in, he's huffing and puffing, and everyone's like, is there something wrong with him?
Right.
Like, is he a chain smoker? Like, why is he breathing like that? He's 21 years old, and like, I don't understand. And it's like, look, the basketball, like, live action, NBA action is way different. The speed, the pace, everything is way different than anything you can simulate in a gym.
No doubt. And he said that. So Sean Cunningham, friend of the program, the Kings Beach, Sean Cunningham, he went down and talked to Devin Carter, and Devin Carter more or less said what you kind of just said. Like, I haven't gotten to play basketball because even leading up to the draft, if he's doing anything, it's a workout. It's not like doing things to get better at hoop. And so I think this is the right thing for him, where you go to the G League, he's going to get so much more value there, and he might be the best player on the floor every night, but you're at least playing, you're at least getting your legs back, you're getting your wind back. You're getting experience being the primary ball handler, which is, if he's going to play for the Kings, kind of what they're going to need from him.
Yep.
So I think that's probably what's best for him. And then with Markelle Fultz specifically, I kind of think he is going to play. And I don't know if it'll be 20 minutes. That might be a lot, but they need somebody besides Malik Monk to be able to bring the ball up the floor and organize the offense like a little. And if he provides anything defensively, like, man, he's going to have to play.
No, I think you're right, but not in the first week, the first 2 weeks. Again, in all honesty, Markelle Fultz could use a G League assignment. Like, he could use going out and playing 35 minutes in a couple of games and getting his win back, playing more than, 6-minute segments in a game. And that might be all he gets, right? So he might play 12 minutes a night. I would caution people, like, where are you going to steal those 12 minutes? Because they're already like a major minute crunch with these guys. And sure, you can start taking minutes away from veteran players, but that also, like, that's not as easy. We talk about, like, taking a starter's job and saying, hey, we need somebody to go to the bench. That's one thing. Taking their minutes is a whole other thing. They want to play. And so, like, there's a possibility here, but a lot of the minutes we're talking about, what do you wanted to see? No Jake LaRavia minutes or 12? Do you want to see no Trey Lyles minutes or 12? Do you want to see 24 minutes of Keon Ellis or 12? Like, so pick your poison. And so it's not going to be easy to fit somebody in, especially somebody who doesn't know your system, somebody who isn't a shooter at all, like, not at all, like a sub 30% 3-point shooter for his career. a good passer, a decent defender, all of these things, but still, like, maybe he works, maybe he doesn't, but trying to find out on the fly, I would much rather have a player who, again, not to say that I'm out on Markelle Fultz, but like, there's a big difference between a player who's been playing in the G League or a player who gets bought out and has been playing 15, 20 minutes a night for a team in the NBA, and you sign that guy versus a guy who hasn't played in 9 months. And so you have to get him up to speed. And then once you get him up to speed, like, what do you have? And who is he? And who is he in your system? And I don't think we know the answer to any of that yet.
It feels like the Devin Carter pick kind of set the tone for everything this season has become.
Amen.
Where they drafted another point guard, and it was like, that's weird. They don't need another one of those.
Foreshadowing, Kyle.
Right. And then he's right. And then he was hurt. And then when he came back, it's like, wasn't quite ready. And it just that entire thing, it went from they're going to trade that pick and they're going to get a wing, and oh my God, here we go. This is going to be. And then they draft a guy who isn't going to have any kind of impact in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, that's
and I just want to correct. I want to correct something you said. You said gets hurt. No, he was already hurt. He was already hurt when they. Yeah, and I mean, if you're gonna draft an NBA ready player who can't play for 7 or 8 months, that's a problem. Like, either you're drafting an NBA ready player to help the rotation today, or you're not. Just like, straight up. So I don't know. Like, it's an odd pick, but it also, like, it does foreshadow everything that happens from then on. Like, this whole entire season feels like that was the beginning of something, because you were trying to go get a guy like Cam Johnson or a guy like Kyle Kuzma with that pick. And then instead of taking that leap forward, you took a player who wasn't going to play forever, and who now, he's going to end his rookie career. Maybe he's played 150 minutes, maybe not. Like, that's where we're heading at this point. And like, I feel for him, because he's, it's not his fault he was hurt. But at the same time, like, it does feel like this is sort of something that feels like the whole entire season looks exactly like this.
You think there's any chance he was drafted with them knowing, hey, De'Aaron might not be here after this season? Maybe it was a pick for the future rather because, I mean, the only way I see is, like, Monty in this front office expected this team to win 50 or so games, so you could waste a pick on a guy who's not going to play for a while. Like,
yes,
I'm not sure
I think
what
that's
they were thinking.
a very real thing.
Yeah, hindsight is 2020. Like, we can look back now and go, oh, okay, maybe you knew something different. Like, when the Kings kept drafting DeMarcus Cousins' replacement, and DeMarcus kept saying, why do you keep drafting my replacement, and then talking about an extension? And they're like, oh, no, we're extending you, but we're going to draft Willie Cauley-Stein. And then the next year, we're going to draft Yorgos Papagiannis with the 13th pick. We're going to spend 2 lottery picks at your position, but you're the guy. You're a franchise guy. Yeah. Interesting, right? How when you take a step back, you're like, hey, that's interesting how that worked out.
Do you know who I would super take on the Kings right now? Khalil Ware. Can you imagine if they had Khalil Ware running around for 19, 20 minutes a night?
Yeah.
But hey, couldn't do that because he was only 20 or whatever.
Or Wells, or we just saw Tristan Da Silva come through and play for Orlando, or Dalton Connect. Like, and it's not about Devin Carter. It's about, like, putting your resources into a different position that you lack. Like, there's so many of them that were in this draft that you're just like,
if the problem was, like, readiness and experience, you defeat the purpose by drafting a guy who wasn't going to be able to even play in basketball games until January.
Yeah.
So if the guy was going to need a chance to develop anyway, why not take one of the younger guys with the higher ceiling who actually plays a position of need? I don't
like. That's always been the question, Kyle.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
There are players around. Like, if you knew you were going to have to move Malik Monk into the starting lineup, all of a sudden there's a whole group of players, mostly from Sacramento, that are sitting right there, and you could have drafted, that would have made sense as your 6 man, right? Like
Yes.
you could say, oh, well, we don't know about Keon Ellis. It's like, okay, that's fine if you don't know about Keon Ellis. That's fine if that's the way you're going into the offseason, right? But that doesn't excuse like skipping players that, would have made perfect sense if you were going to pull the plug on, move him into the starting lineup, right? And
Right.
that's just where I always get confused about, like, it's a complex thing that you have to develop a team over the course of years, and you're always mixing pieces, and you have the draft, which is this one thing, but you know what I mean? It's not just some like real basic puzzle you're trying to figure out, but you still can't skip, like major positions of need. And I'll never, I don't get it. You're right. Khalil Ware was the 15th pick. Like, and you can, Jared McCain,
16.
Sacramento pick, 16th pick, Dalton Connect, 17th, Tristan Da Silva. Like there are all of these players that play positions that you probably could have used, that you just,
and all going to teams that because in the lead up to the draft, it was the discussion around Sacramento was like, well, if you're going to use this pick, it has to be somebody who can play now, that can contribute this year. And then you go look, like, Miami is a team that always wants to be competitive. Philly is a team that wants to be competitive. The Lakers, a team that always wants to be competitive. Orlando, a playoff team that was going to be in the playoffs again. All figuring out ways to draft rookies and integrate them into their teams immediately. Like, this is just and again, this is less about Devin Carter, the player, because maybe Devin Carter plays a bunch in the G League this year and comes out next year in Summer League and dominates and looks really good and looks like at least a rotational NBA player by the time next season starts and everything looks okay. But right now, where we sit on February 18th, where we went from preseason talking about 50 plus wins to, hey, can they hang on to a play-in spot? And then you have all these players who went directly after Devin Carter, who are contributing on teams that are gonna be in the postseason.
It's a tough look, man.
It's a really, really, really difficult pill to swallow.
Well, and I just really feel bad for Devin, because it's not like he wanted to get injured, and it's not like he doesn't want to be out there. Like, it's
Totally.
just, it's almost impossible to miss all of training camp, to miss all of the build up to training camp, the summer that you spend with the training staff that's like building you up into the player you're going to be, working out some of the kinks in your game, assessing your game before you get there, working on your 3-point shot, tightening all of these things up, converting you from a part-time basketball player to a full-time basketball player that does it for a living. It's a totally different world. And to start out so far behind is tough. Not only so far behind, but with a major surgery and major rehab for 6 months. It's just tough.
Really tough. Yves Missi, 21st, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some players here that, like even a guy like Ryan Dunn that goes all the way at 28, like looks like a player. Isaiah Collier looks like a player. Like there are guys that could have helped you, that again, like the like look back on this off season is going to be a tough one, because you really put yourself with multiple moves into very specific areas that were uncomfortable.
It would be such an easier, what's that, like loss to L to hold, like loss to take, I guess is the phrasing I'll use here. If Devin Carter was a 6'7", 6'8" wing player.
Yeah.
At least, because then at least like, okay, I see the vision. It just didn't work out. The fact that it was a position they didn't necessarily need. I mean, they need it now that they've traded De'Aaron Fox and they don't have another point guard, but it was a position they didn't need. And now he's not even helping when you actually do need that position. It's a miss from every conceivable angle. At least for this year. We'll see how Devin Carter develops. Hopefully he's a starting caliber player next year, and we'll be lauding the pick. But right now it's a tough pill to swallow for sure. All right, we got the handoff coming up. Is that what's next?
Maybe.
That is what's next. Yeah, we got the handoff coming up.
It's your show, man.
One of D-Lo or Casey, I don't know. Somebody's going to be here. We're going to go and pay some bills. He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insider, and we're sponsored by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
All good.
Hey, thanks. Drafting is so difficult because, like, I see some people talking about. I said maybe. It's so hard to, like, it is a line you have to walk, right? Drafting for need versus drafting best player. And I always talk about like in the NFL draft, to me, just the best player all the time is the right move. The 49ers have George Kittle. Even if George Kittle was 27, if Ty Warren, the tight end from Penn State, is there at 11 and the Niners, he's at the top of their board, like, just take him.
Yeah.
Just add more good players. That's just, but I think in the NBA, it's a little bit different because if I feel like there's so many more, like, the turnover is not nearly as high as in the NFL. And I feel like drafting for need in the NBA is maybe more of a thing, or should be more of a thing. But I don't know. That's just my read on it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, like, I know the NBA Guru show. If McNair thought he was the best player by a mile, you pick him and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened with Tyrese. Okay, so first of all, Tyrese fell to the Kings. It was either him and Devin Vassell, whichever one fell, because the idiot Suns drafted Jalen Smith at number 10, and it dropped one of those two to the Kings at number 12. There was no other options. They were either taking Tyrese or they're taking Devin Vassell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Devin Vassell ends up going number 11 and Tyrese goes number 12.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, you pick the best player, but when you're drafting 13th, if you don't think that there are multiple players on the same tier that are, equally good players, and then you can't sift through them and find one that fits your need better, I agree. You always draft best player available, but that's when you're drafting the top 3, the top 5, the top 10, and you're watching players fall to you and stuff. When you're drafting at 13, like, best player available means a lot of different things, because first of all, that was a bad draft. So best player available, you stack them all up and you say, okay, who is going to be the best player in 3 years and 5 years and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You might, like, look at age as one component, say, hey, we talked about this before the draft, Kyle. We said they're going to draft Dalton Knecht. If they're going to stay at 13, they're going to draft Dalton Knecht. They're going to draft Devin Carter. They're going to draft, and we didn't know about Devin Carter's injury at that point. They're going to draft a mature college player that falls to them, because that is what they do every single time. It's exactly what they did again. They drafted a mature college player, but that didn't mean that there weren't other mature college players staring you at that you needed more than what Devin Carter had. And, so they chose a path. It is what it is. And now, if it doesn't work out, you pay for it. But, like, you should at least have tiers where, hey, we think, guys. All right.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
He's James. I'm Kyle. We're hanging out with you until noon. Then we'll hand it off to D-Lo and KC, and they will take you up to 4 o'clock right here on Sacramento Sports Leader. So we were talking at the break about the NBA draft and just kind of continuing our discussion about Devin Carter. And we got into the idea of drafting for need versus best player available. And you were making the point that by the time you get to where the Kings were in the draft, the best player available and need are a little bit easier to marry, or at least it should be, right?
Yeah, I think best player and fit are two totally different things at that point. Fit or need. Like, when you get to 13th in the draft, you should be looking at a tier of players. You shouldn't be looking at, this wasn't, again, we can go back through the draft and we can talk about, I've always asked this question of like Sam Vecini from The Athletic. Like, how many player draft is this? And when you ask that question, it's very specific. It's like, oh, well, this is a 4-man draft, or this is a 6-man draft. You know, we talked about it the other day when Roy Hibbert decided to pull out of the draft at the last second, and instead of the Kings getting either Yi Jing Lee or Roy Hibbert, Roy Hibbert pulled out, and next thing you know, Spencer Hawes falls to the Kings, and the Kings had to draft Spencer Hawes because he was the 10th best player, right? So there are drafts that are very specific, but when you get to number 13, I've never heard of a 13-man draft. And when you get past like 10 or 11, there's usually a segment of players that are all around the same like grade. And as somebody who has a deficiency on your roster and you don't know how you're going to fix that deficiency, and someone who has been using the 13th pick to go out and shop for that deficiency that you know you have. And that's why we hear guys like Cam Johnson. That's why we hear guys like, again, Kyle Kuzma that could have been acquired for the 13th pick along with other stuff. It's very clear you knew what your need was. And instead of addressing whatever it was with that pick, even if you still knew you were going to go chase DeMar DeRozan, you still know that DeMar DeRozan's 35, and 2 years from now, you might be able to have a replacement. In fact, if you thought that DeMar DeRozan might be on the table and might be one of the players that you're looking at, you probably should have even looked at younger players. You shouldn't have just like put yourself in a situation where I got to get a college junior or an old sophomore or a senior. You could have opened up your entire book of draft players at that point and said, it's okay for me to draft a 19 or 20-year-old player at this position because I know I'm going to buy myself a couple of years with DeMar DeRozan. Now, again, you don't know if you're getting DeMar DeRozan for sure at that point, but what you do know is that you're striking out with these other pieces that you're chasing, and your field of who it is, whether it's free agency or it's via trade, is shrinking, and you should probably start looking more long-term, better fit. Like, how is it going to work out with whatever player you're going after?
Let's bring in Damian Barling for the handoff. D'Lo and KC coming up here at noon. According to sources, D'Lo and KC coming up at noon. Do you agree with the idea that the Devin Carter pick kind of set the table for everything this Kings season has become?
Sure, makes sense. It sucks.
Perfect. Moving on.
It's awful. Like it was such a. I don't know. I walked in a little bit on what you guys were talking about here. You're trying to win immediately. Like everything that they're doing, from the DeMar DeRozan signing, and obviously this was a team that was capable of winning right now. But from the DeMar DeRozan signing to the De'Aaron Fox trade being about Zach LaVine, everything is winning immediately. The Devin Carter thing is a complete outlier. Like, sir, what are you doing here? You're out 6 months, and now we're going to force you into this this situation where we need you to play. We need you to, not only do we need you to play, we need you to be good. And sir, you're none of those things. And it isn't. It's man, when you when you go through the front office, man, that is a massive black eye on this front office. That Devin Carter pick right now. Now, maybe he turns out to be the greatest player in history, but good Lord Almighty, he does not look like it right now.
Well, that
and even if he winds up being that, you're still going to be fired before then.
And it left you with so many needs. And you can say best player versus, fit or needs, but you have to address these things with very small windows. The draft is one window, free agency is the next. Like, and then we get into trades, but that happens way later. Like, if you can't address the need in any other function, like, why would you not address the need with the pick? And so it's tough. I feel bad for Devin because I don't think this is about Devin. It's strictly, and even if I believe them, like, I don't think that they knew that Devin Carter was going to be out 6 to 8 months.
Well, okay. If that's true, then they need to be fired.
Yeah. Facts.
I mean, if what you just said is even remotely accurate, the front office needs to be fired. Because I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here, but I know people who knew. Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if that was acknowledged or not. If James knew, the front office had to have known. Like, I've always believed the front office knew.
I hope so. And if they were drafting for value, I get it. Like, if you think that he was a top 5 or 6 pick and then he fell to you at 12, but again, that's not who you were as a team. You're a team who got stagnant the year before and needed a boost and needed to do something different, and you weren't able to accomplish that with that pick. And again, I'm not saying they should have drafted somebody, like, whether you trade it or you open the pool up to a larger group of players, whatever it might be. Either way, you had to understand that you might not be the person who gets to see that come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you need to draft for best player available, or you need to draft to, like, at least fill the position afterwards. You know, like, again, if you're going to go out and sign DeMar DeRozan, that's fine. You got a 35-year-old dude. Then get the 20-year-old that trains behind DeMar DeRozan for 2 years, plays spot minutes, but is growing as a player and gives you the length and the athleticism. So when you face big teams and big players, you have somebody who can go out there and play minutes.
Right.
And as of now, I mean, they even went out and signed Jordan McLaughlin. Mm-hmm. Like, as soon as free agency opened, they signed Jordan McLaughlin as your backup point guard. You already had Keon Ellis. You already had Kevin Huerter. Like, that's 3 guards, and they're not your starters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just weird.
It's just, even if that is the case, like, they said, wow, Devin Carter was one of the 3 best dudes in this draft. He fell all the way to 13. What an amazing stroke of luck for us. That's such a overlooking everything wrong with the roster. It just doesn't track to me, given everything that this team needed to do to move forward. Like, they weren't, like, James, you said it. That's not where this team is, where you can just go, oh, great, a good value pick. Nice. Not going to play for 6 months, but we'll just bring this guy in. Like, no, then you're still going to be short players.
Yeah.
Figuratively and literally.
Super tough.
And here we are on February 18th. What?
I'm so frustrated with this basketball team, man. Like, I'm trying not to be like, and that'll be a conversation today about, like, Friday's show did have, like, a tone to it.
Oh, it's dark
because of the loss to New Orleans. And when you lose to a bottom 4 team, like, that's just, I don't know how to sugarcoat this stuff for the people who listen to this show, for Kings fans. I had felt that way, really, going back to the Dallas game, where it's like, I can't wrap my brain around this team being good anymore. But they beat Dallas. It was like, hey, that was okay. That's how you. So I think I'm just sinking into, like, this is how we're going to survive. Is it, like, whether it's DeMar or there has to be one guy who goes superhuman. And if you have it, you've got a shot. If you don't, and you get, whether it's solid performances, okay performances, bad performances, you risk losing to the Pelicans. Like, that's a bad basketball team that had one guy go superhuman. CJ went nuts, and that's why they won. DeMar went nuts against Dallas. That's why the Kings won. They actually contained CJ, that second go around, and had some guys put up good performances. Like, all right, that's good. Just get through the break with. We will pause all overarching bad feelings if you go into the All-Star break with 4 straight wins.
Yep.
You didn't. And that last night was so brutal, because not only did you lose, everybody else won. Not figuratively everybody else, literally everybody else. From the Clippers to the Warriors to the Timberwolves to the Mavericks. Everyone who was in your eyesight won. And you dropped games. You gave the Warriors one. And now the Warriors are winning championships. Warriors are winning the championship. And they're probably going to go through Sacramento in the play-in to do it. So congratulations to Draymond Green.
Even as you bring that up, it's not even that, as much as it is about, like, everybody taking a step forward and you taking one back. It's that 3 games over 500 with 27 games left versus 1 game, and then you start doing the math on every other game the rest of the way,
Yeah.
it just becomes so brutal. That 1 game means 2 in the standings, and it is so brutal because it's nearly impossible to make up because you don't get another grouping of 12 win teams that you're playing.
That 4-day stretch near the end of March is a bitch.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
It's insane. I mean, it's all at the it's a great day for King. It's a great 4-day stretch for Kings fans who get to see Giannis and then Tatum and Brown and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But damn, good luck to the Kings.
And that Celtics OKC is a back-to-back, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Well,
I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. I think that's 3 and 4.
it is 3 and 4.
Yeah.
The 20th. Oh no.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah, the 22nd,
hey.
24th, 25th.
If they make it, they're going to earn the hell out of it.
It's facts.
Like,
Facts. No, absolutely.
That's where we're at.
Well, then on top of that,
all right, we gotta
go.
Yeah, sorry, man. What? Get it in quick. Get it in quick.
It goes into a 6-game road trip right after that. 6 games.
He's James Ham, Damian Barling, D'Lo, and KC coming up next. Jesse Tapia, appreciate you hanging out with us today, man. And we'll be back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Until then, drink water, be nice to people.